Hi there, and welcome to part 4 of my Silver Solstice series, which is an analysis of my most recent channeling, the Rainbow Portal Silver Ray and the Two Worlds Split Winter Solstice 2017. So the next part, for many years, the preparations for this time period have been in place. Starseeds, healers, and connected individuals have woven the new geometric grids around the fifth dimensional Earth, preparing for this time. So for many years, the preparations for this time period have been in place. Individuals, groups, I spoke about this in part 2, the indigenous tribes, the original starseeds, and I would presume these preparations, yes, would also involve the quantum higher versions of humanity, the pre-incarnate knowing, the knowledge, the extraterrestrial groups. So there have been many different fields of consciousness and individual consciousness structures preparing for this time period. One of the reasons for this isn't necessarily because it's such a unique thing. It is utterly unique, and that's one of the reasons why the preparations are in place, but also because this is a natural organic pattern of evolution and growth for a planet and a community upon that planet. So ascension itself occurs to all consciousness structures in individual and group form, and to planets also, planetary bodies. So preparations would always be in place for that ascension process. Starseeds, healers, and connected individuals have woven the new geometric grids around the fifth dimensional Earth, preparing for this time. So the awareness of starseeds and healers and connected individuals, these tribal, indigenous peoples that I spoke about in part 2, the quantum versions of yourself, the previous incarnations of yourself, your ancestral line, all of those individuals connected, aware, and awake will have woven the geometric grids. And they will have done this through their consciousness, either in an aware, conscious state, many being fully aware and conscious of what they're doing and understanding this for many years. There have been individuals incarnated on this planet that have understood what was happening now, and they knew what they were here to do. Others will have been doing this. They will have been weaving these new geometric grids without necessarily fully knowing what they were doing, but they would have been moving crystals around, creating artwork, creating music, doing some kind of planetary healing, all sorts of ways that they will have woven or created these new geometric grids around the fifth dimensional Earth, preparing for this time. So lots of preparation. Since your 111111 gateway, and they're talking there about the 11th of November 2011, that's the day they're talking about, or the time period. Doesn't necessarily mean that anything happened on that day. For many people it did, but around that time period, that particular portal around the 11th of November 2011. Since your 111111 gateway, many have set foot upon the new Earth, and more star-seeded, light-coded individuals have begun to exist within this world. So I explained this in part 3. Set foot as in they have existed within that consciousness, within that fifth dimensional consciousness. They have existed within, and it is actually another Earth within a quantum sense. It is another planet. There are two planets superimposed upon one another, two dimensions merged, dimensions superimposed upon one another. And what's so interesting but also confusing is this is a dimensional split and a dimensional merge at the same time. I could explain more about that. It's a dimensional split simply because we have this polarization and this choice that humanity is making. So that creates the match to that consciousness. Or you could also say the the polarization of the splitting of the timelines, the splitting of the dimensions, the splitting of the worlds is creating the consciousness within the starseeds and the aware ones, that's creating the mirrored match within humanity. Or you could also say humanity itself, and the way that they are polarizing right now is creating this polarization within consciousness, and therefore the polarization within the dimensions and the planet. But the truth of the matter is, it's all a simultaneous movement. It's not really one creating the other. It is a simultaneous movement, because energy just flows together in its like vibrational state. It's like a movement or a symphony. Since your 11-11-11 gateway, many have set foot upon the new earth, and more star-seeded, light-coded individuals have begun to exist within this world. So self-explanatory, really, especially if you are a starseed. So more and more of these light-coded individuals, these aware individuals that are working with the light body, activating the DNA, crystalline template, star-seeded individuals with starseed memories, they're existing within this new earth, this fifth dimensional reality. And they've set foot there and then spent longer and longer time there. And as a starseed in this journey, especially since 11-11-11, many of you will look back to the 11th of November 2011 and think, yeah, that explains me. It does explain me personally. And I have spoken to many clients who have also found that the 11-11-11 was a major portal. It wasn't so much December 21st, 2012 for a lot of people. For a lot of people it was, but for many, that first real awakening started on the 11-11-11 or thereabouts. The fluctuations of time, so different within the fifth dimensional grid, have been noticeable to so many of you as time shifts and momentary stopping of time. That which you call the Mandela Effect has been experienced muchly. These normal patterns always around you, for you exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, present themselves now due to your awareness. It is your awareness that triggers memory and the formations of new coded strands within your DNA fields, and you hold a new template within. These new coded strands and templates allow you to experience the multiple dimensions simultaneously and make sense of them, grounding the higher dimensions into your third dimensional reality, creating this very world we speak of. So the fluctuations of time. Time fluctuates. Time isn't necessarily what we think it is. It's not just linear. It's a moving, living energy. In fact, time is everything. Time, there is no linear time, so time is one creative moment. Now that one creative moment will be experienced differently in each dimension, so that's why it says here, so different within the fifth dimensional grid. So the fifth dimensional experience of time will be different to the third dimensional experience of time. It won't be linear, but it won't be fully one either. It won't be fully 0 point. It's far closer to 0 point than the third dimension. But it's still within a scale, because within the 0 point there is no scale, there is no fifth dimension or third dimension. Everything is one, so there is no number. It's 0 point. So these fluctuations of time have been noticeable to so many of you. So many of you, the starseeds, the aware ones, the light-coded individuals, are noticing this. They're thinking, time is different. It's linear, but something is different. And so you are experiencing this as time shifts. Now, a time shift is very much like, it's kind of like deja vu, but it's not deja vu, as in deja vu is very much, I've done this before, and you remember having done it as you're doing it. Very strange. And that's similar to a time shift, but a time shift is more about a loss of time or an experience of time that doesn't fit a linear model. So, for example, let's say you wake up in the morning and you go off out for the day and you spend the day out at a country park with your family. You're there all day long, and then you come home and then you try to remember when it was that you went to go out for the day with the family to this park, and it feels like you went 3 weeks ago instead of that morning. Or it can work in a different way, whereas you've been talking to someone for an hour, and at the end of the conversation, it feels as though you've been speaking for a day rather than 1 hour. These are memories of time that don't fit the linear. That's what time shifts means in an experienced way. Time shifts are fluctuations of time. So time really is stretching, quickening, slowing down, but we perceive it through memory because time is linear. So to us, what happened in the past happened before at an earlier time, but really we're experiencing fifth dimensional time. There's a bleed through where it's more like the 0 point. It's less linear, and that's coming into this reality for anyone who's aware, because they aren't living in the third dimension. They're living through that fourth dimensional field, and they are existing within the fifth dimension, which is the new earth. And momentary stopping of time. So there may be times where you feel like time has stopped, and either you stopped with it and you remember stopping, or you continued moving while everything else had stopped. And that can feel a bit like time just stopped. It's like a massive clock stopped ticking. It's a strange feeling, but it's really, again, to do with the bleed through and the fluctuations of non-linear time, which is coming into the linear. But this is experienced by aware individuals. There may be times when non-aware individuals experience this too, but again, it's dismissed and it's ignored because it isn't seen as significant, whereas somebody who's aware will notice everything about time because their awareness, it's like they have this third eye, the third eye awakening. They have another sight. They see so much more. That which you call the Mandela Effect has been experienced muchly. So the Mandela Effect has been experienced muchly, meaning it's been experienced a lot. The Mandela Effect being, you again, it's to do with memory. You would look back and think, I remember that particular day I was with this person, and yet in the timeline you're in, that person wasn't actually with you. It's called the Mandela Effect because there are a group of people who remember that Nelson Mandela was released from prison, and other people remember he died in prison. So within these two different timelines, the Mandela Effect, that's why it's been called the Mandela Effect, because such a lot of people had these same memories. So it could be a particular book or a television program that you remember having a particular title, and then in this timeline you go back and research that book or that event, and in the history of this timeline, the book had a different title, the program had a different title. So this again is the bleed through of a fifth dimensional non-linear time effect. The Mandela Effect has got two streams. One is organic and natural. The other is a deliberate recreated technology. There are two videos on my channel about the Mandela Effect, so you can go back and watch those, and that goes into more detail. These normal patterns always around you for you exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. So these are normal patterns. The time shifts, the momentary stopping of time, and the Mandela Effect, all of these are normal, and they're always around you, for you exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. So this isn't just you, this is everyone. Everyone exists in multiple dimensions. So there will be a bleed through of non-linear time. It's normal and natural and organic, and it's always happened. but they present themselves now due to your awareness. So this is what I was saying. Your awareness is making you see these and feel these. So before, you would have still had these bleed throughs of nonlinear time. You would have still experienced the fifth dimension and other dimensions because you exist in all dimensions. These planets that are superimposed within one another, you can move to many different planets within that particular model, many different dimensions. This is a normal existence, but you aren't aware of the dimensional fabric and the time and the way that the time is experienced within that dimensional fabric. You're not aware of it. If you are fully linear and fully third dimensional, these things will be ignored. They will not be taken note of. So your awareness, now you have this open third eye, you are aware of these different time fluctuations and so much more. It is your awareness that triggers memory. That's really important. Your memory is being triggered, and your memory is being triggered in a non-linear sense. So you're going to remember things that haven't happened yet. You'll remember the future. You will remember your future lives. It's not just about remembering the past. Then you remember the 0 point. You remember when you were source, you remember when you were God, and then the memory becomes a knowing, and that's when you enter the 0 point and it becomes a now. That's the moment where you can create magic. That is the magical moment. That's when people say, I am God, I am source. That's because their memory has become knowing. So your awareness will trigger all this in you. The more you become aware, the more these ways of experiencing reality will occur for you. The consciousness goes through an expansion. And the formations of new coded strands within your DNA fields. So as this happens to you, as you experience these memories and these fluctuations of time, strands are being triggered. Your DNA is changing. There's a new formation occurring. You could also say that a new formation is occurring naturally, and that's what's triggering your consciousness. But as I said before, this happens simultaneously. It is a movement that occurs simultaneously. It is not one before the other because it's a nonlinear movement and it's a nonlinear activation. Your DNA fields, and you hold a new template within. So that's what's happening. We are all moving into this new template, this new crystalline formation. So that's why it's so linked to memory. And you'll see a lot of spiritual teachers talk about how important memory is. And if you perceive memory in a linear sense, you will be thinking, well, why is what happened in the past, in my childhood or in my past lives, so significant to my light body and my DNA activation? It's not just the past. Your memory is the way you perceive knowing. So you are remembering things from the future and from parallel realities. You're remembering things from all different angles. These new coded strands and templates allow you to experience the multiple dimensions simultaneously. So this is what you are doing. These new codes within the DNA field, this new template, this crystalline template, this light body that you are growing, allows you to experience multiple dimensions simultaneously. Now, the thing is, you've always been in those multiple dimensions, but you couldn't experience them because there was no awareness of them. There was no expansion within the consciousness, so therefore there were not any of these coded strands. You didn't have the template. Once you hold the template, that's when your awareness is there and you can experience the dimensions. So you haven't really changed where you are. What you've changed is your ability to access it and your perception of it. It's like having a computer and the internet exists, but you can't get on the internet because you don't have broadband. It's my analogy. So, but you've still got the internet. The internet's still there. The World Wide Web is all around you, but you can't access it through your computer because you don't have broadband. You don't have a router. The minute you go out and buy a router and you connect up you connect to Wi-Fi and you have a broadband connection in your home, You can access the World Wide Web, which has always been there. That's a good analogy of what's happening. In fact, it's pretty much identical to what's happening. The dimensions have always been there, but we haven't had the software to experience them. And now we have, and we're getting more and more software and more upgrades all the time. And make sense of them, which is important. So these new coded strands and templates allow you to experience the multiple dimensions simultaneously and make sense of them. Because without this software, without this new code, you can experience them, and you can be quite frightened and puzzled, because these strange things are happening and you don't know what on earth it means. And that does happen. That does happen to people who wake up, and that is happening to the sleeping individuals who haven't quite got the software yet in place to be able to make sense. When you can make sense of them, that's when your life takes on a completely different meaning. This is magic, this is beauty, this is synchronicity, because you can think, that's what that means, and that relates to this, and you can see that your entire life and everything that you do and everything you experience is all matched to other experiences. So for example, your health is in sync with your car, and your car is in sync with the book you're reading, and the book you're reading is in sync with the conversation you had with someone the day before, and that conversation is in sync with something you were wearing. It's all tied up. So you make sense of these, and you start to make sense of these unexplainable feelings, such as the time shifts and the momentary stopping of time, the momentary stopping of time, the Mandela Effect. When these things happen and you can't make sense of them, and you don't know why this is happening, it can be incredibly confusing, and this has happened. The confusion has happened throughout time. Now, because we do have the internet, when we have a funny feeling, like, I feel like time has just stopped, I feel like time is speeding up, I went out yesterday, but it seemed like I actually went out last month, and I've lost a whole month of time. Type it in Google or get onto YouTube, and bang, there's your answer. Or at least there's someone somewhere who's experienced the same thing, and they've written a book about it, or they've made videos about it, or there's a television program about it. So we have the backup now of everyone else's experiences, which validates our making sense of this. We aren't alone in making sense of this. You can bet that whatever we're experiencing, we will find someone who's been experiencing this. I've had so many people write to me who have found my work through their own experience. Something's happened to them, a dream, an emotion, a strange vision, whatever it may be, and so they type that in Google and they find me, and then my videos answer the questions for them that they've been asking, and their own experience is validated by the information that's coming. And of course, again, that would have worked on a non-linear stream of time, because the 9 would come in with messages for me before they were actually needed by others. So I might release a video 3 years before an individual over the other side of the world needs to watch that video, but for that person, that video has come into their life at exactly the right time, because of the individualized synchronicity that they are experiencing, because their life is all about synchronization with everything. And you will be doing the same if you are making videos or in any way creative, and you are putting your spiritual experiences and your knowledge into that creativity. Then you will act as a synchronization and explanation for other people as they go through these same experiences. These new coded strands and templates allow you to experience the multiple dimensions simultaneously and make sense of them, grounding the higher dimensions into your third dimensional reality, creating this very world we speak of. So we're grounding the higher dimensions into the third dimensional reality. We're bringing the fifth dimension here. It's not really as if we're going somewhere. We're not ascending into the clouds, into this state of rapture and flying off the planet. We're actually taking that energy of the higher dimensions, or one could say the energy of one's home planet, one's home genetics, whatever that may be, whether it's a pre-incarnate line, an ancestral line, an extraterrestrial line. We are taking the energy and we're bringing it here. We're bringing it here to the third dimension and anchoring it. And that is what's creating this very world we speak of. That's why it's so evident in the third dimension now. That's why we can look around and see it tangibly, because we've brought it here. So that's the end of part 4. So I will just make a mark there where I've got to, and I'll be back again soon with another analysis episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I will be with you soon. Bye.
We are now at a time in our planetary evolution known as ascension. Those individuals we can call starseeds are currently in their millions and are collectively going through this awakening process. In this book, the 9 bring forward memory triggers designed to act as a catalyst into the awakening process. They present a model of working with the individualized matrix field, known also as the Merkaba, through matrix architecture, Merkaba magic, and the golden triad of ascension, presenting an in-depth analysis and explanation of the twin flame consciousness and how this relates to the ascension, as well as providing triggers to the collective memory experience known as Atlantis. This transmission is designed to trigger your multi-dimensional memory as you begin the construction of the Merkaba matrix and embrace the inner archetype of the architect. The triggers contained within this material are there to assist you in accessing the codes for the new formation of the original crystalline DNA matrix. I, Magenta Pixie, am so happy to present this transmission to you from the White-Winged Collective Consciousness of 9, Divine Architecture and the Starseed Template.